Good afternoon. I have a question for you. Have you ever put yourself on a refugee shoe? Or have you ever wondered how it feels to be rejected from your community? Imagine if your house has been stolen and you're forced to leave the country. In 2019, Doctors of the World, an international human rights organization, documented that 7.8 million people were forced to leave their country against their will, and that 37,000 people were forced daily to leave their houses due to persecution or conflict. Architecture can shape the refugee life condition through its thought designs. When designers think on refugees, they probably think on building them simple shelters. However, building them shelters worsen the refugee crisis. In this presentation, I will explain to you the importance of architecture and the impact it has into the refugee crisis, speaking socially and economically. Socially speaking, refugees have been stigmatized and separated from the new communities they have reached. Refugees have been relocated in poor quality shelters that heighten the disintegration and rejection from the existing community, reinforcing the stigma and mindset that the society has. This issue is directly related to the urbanism planning and design for the newcomers that they have in place. Architecture historian Michel Provost explained how refugees were placed on the borders of Germany and Netherlands, so they are totally separated from the heart of the city. Now that we understand how it impacts socially, I want to explain you how it impacts them economically. Refugees are being excluded from the society. Their impact on their economic life due to the lack of incomes they have. A good way to helping them is by giving jobs and housing. However, they have limited space to proceed in these aspects. Refugees lack of status when they migrate from one place to another. However, they have tried, if they have the opportunity, to self-generate employment by using housing and renting spaces for other people. An example of this is in Amsterdam, where refugees who were rejected their asylum, they went to empty properties and they transformed entirely the interior of these structures in order for them to generate income by transforming the interiors and renting it out to other offices for small purposes or startups. So they rent it out to generate and improve and have a space in the community. Humanitarian expert Kleinschmidt explained in his interview hosted by Dessen that is the most influential architecture interior and design magazine, that the origin of Venice on Italy. This city was originated from refugees that gradually grew up the city and built what we know today, and a beautiful city that is visited. Imagine a place plenty of space, for example, Somalia. Imagine if we build social population centers so they can develop and have a good quality of life by giving them living and working spaces. It is important to understand that refugees do not have to be diminished or displeased by others. There's a need on changing society life mindset. In this way, one way to help them by architecture is by giving a warm home. Refugees are human beings, just like you, just like me, who deserve equal life, quality, and to be integrated into a society. Sheltering them on the outskirts of the city and on the borders will increase and boost this stigma and mindset that the society has towards them. Refugees migrate against their will. For example, refugees that came from the World War II that survived the war, or for example, people that had to migrate due to climate change. For example, in Bangladesh, that their houses have been flooded due to high level sea. As the architect Rem Koolhaas said in the AIA Convention in 2016, refugees could re-energize sections of the cities. They offer to architecture an interesting provocation or invitation to do good work and collaborate in interesting ways. People is not moving because they want, it's because they are forced to. Architecture can provide better life conditions, putting them love and thought into all the designs, instead of just doing these boxy shelters that are temporal. Refugee shelters need to be welcomed by societies, rather than being a burden. Architecture plays an important role in this situation. It can help to reevaluate those shelters and convert them into cities that can be transformed into enterprise regions so the population can have an integration both socially and economically. One example of this is the Jordan School in Tel Aviv, where they designed a school for African asylum seekers for children of age 5 to 16. Another example is the kitchen and pop-up dining space in London that they bring via refugees and asylum seekers to share meals once a week. Another example is the Airbnb provided housing for refugees where the host of the rooms they rented out from free to all these asylum seekers and refugees that are wanting a new and a good quality life. These are new ways to create innovative infrastructure for the integration of people in societies. We must stop stigmatizing refugees and sending them on poor shelters on the borders of the city. Instead, we should include them in the heart of the social and economic city. I encourage you today to not judge others without knowing the real story that they have behind. And start to thinking of refugees as human beings, just like you, just like me. Architecture shapes individuals daily, and this has the capacity to decrease the trauma and suffering inflicted by this displacement. Remember when I asked you at the beginning of this discussion to imagine yourself as a refugee? Now, imagine yourself as part of the community, pleasantly living the life and sharing the same social environment without being rejected by the community. Thank you.